Hello, welcome to the next edition of Jammin' Dude's Neighborhood. Sorry about the delay in putting this one together. You know, I wasn't falling behind on the listening, that's for sure. I did spend a week listening to the EP Voices in My Head, which I had to obtain for my collection. Man, I've just been sick as a dog, so I didn't get a chance to record over this last weekend just because I was so sick. The whole family was sick. My mother-in-law, whom Mrs. Dude and I take full-time care of, even ended up in the hospital for a while. But she's back home, and hopefully she'll continue to pull through. But still, and my co-host, the Black Russian. That's what's going to keep me from coughing for this episode. It'll be a pretty short one in keeping to the EP. But the immediate thoughts as I'm taking one last listen to it just now is Riverside was so beautifully gentle on so many tracks. And I think that this EP really captures that. There's not, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but there's not a lot of energy on this. We get a lot of very mellow and atmospheric tracks. The most powerful, of course, being the third track, DNA, Tis Rednum, or FRAF. I know. It's far from understand, spelt backwards, which is cute that they made it into a little phrase like that. I like that. But that was the first one I'd heard from this when my buddy sent me a mixed CD. One of the things I like particularly about that track is the vocal callbacks to After, which was one of my favorite tracks from Second Life Syndrome. So there's so you almost get the sense in listening to this EP that these were amended ideas that were meant to go with the Reality Dream trilogy. They either were meant to be appendices or were just songs that maybe almost made it but didn't quite make the cut. But excellent tracks. It begins with Us, a beautiful acoustic, short acoustical track. Goes into Acronym Love, which the lyrics were beautifully written, and I like the wordplay. It reminds me a lot of Neil Peart's wordplay when he plays around with lyrics the way that Marius does on this track. And I haven't taken enough time, since considering it's the man that we're honoring, I haven't taken enough time to talk about Piot's guitar work. And some of his solo phrasings really come out on this EP. And I haven't mentioned enough on Second Life Syndrome, his soaring solos are just amazing. But I was one of the things that leapt out on me here is there's some live tracks too that I'm going to be getting to, but he reminds me so much of Gilmour in that he has this soft, gentle way of soaring and drawing you in, and yet maybe he plays a little bit quicker than Gilmour, and that almost reminds me of maybe like Rothery from Marillion. And you know that he can play he plays a little quicker, but he has that same majestic, soaring quality to his solos that just gives you goosebumps. And I think Piot really did that so well on so many albums, but some of his gentler melodies are really come out on this. Then we get The Time I Was Daydreaming starts off really beautifully, and then we start getting into, well, that's another thing that I really liked about this EP is we're starting to hear more of the sampling now, because we hear it on Far From Understand and towards the end of The Time I Was Daydreaming too. And then it really comes in where the sampling really comes in on the final track, which is one of my favorite choruses too, which is Stuck Between. I'm staring at this thing because I actually have my contacts out, and so I can't. I'm blind as a bat. So I'm sitting here staring at the what's the title again? But really enjoyed this, and Stuck Between was probably my favorite chorus from the entire EP, and really ends the EP on an ominous and beautiful vibe. Before we get into the bonus live tracks, which I'm so happy include some of my favorite tracks from Out of Myself, especially Loose Heart. As I was listening to this whole EP this week, I'm just getting more and more hooked on Loose Heart, and I think I've decided Loose Heart is now probably a top 5 all-time Riverside track for me. So, excellent EP, Voices in My Head. We'll be heading next week into Rapid Eye Movement. So, and I have been listening to that all this week, and I should be posting a review on that early next week, and this time it'll be on time. Until then, enjoy listening to Riverside with me. I'd love to hear your thoughts on everything that's happened so far, everything on Voices in My Head, everything on Out of Myself and Second Life Syndrome. Please share. Please join me in celebrating the life of a fallen guitar hero. And we will see you next time on Jammin' Dude's Neighborhood. Enjoy.